Hi, this is Everett, Everetts Watercolors, and this is Drawing with Everett at 7:30 this evening. Simply Drawing with Everett tonight. Here I am live, broadcasting from YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch. And also I'll be doing it later with Instagram on a replay. I'm in the studio tonight live with my wife, Gloria.
Hello and welcome.
And I've got the chat room on, so feel free to send me a question or a comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All your questions and comments and likes and thumbs up helps with my rating, so thank you very much. Tonight I'm going to do a drawing exercise, and this has to do a little bit with also a concept of art and even photography. The rules of thirds are very important. So let's go over and let me get started. I'm going to show you how you lay out and draw a outline for a landscape. So over to my overhead camera, or my close-up camera. Okay, now the tools I'm using tonight is I've got a standard sheet of sketch paper, 8.5 by 11 inch size. I've got a 12-inch ruler, a 4B pencil for sketching, an eraser to erase any marks I want to take off. And here I'm going to use a waterproof ink pen, ballpoint pen. I'm not a regular fountain pen. It's brand new. I got this week, so I want to play around with it tonight. It's got permanent ink in it for black, and so after my drawing, I'm going to sketch it in with the black ink. I'll put that aside, an eraser. What I'm going to talk about now is let's go to my reference diagram. We're talking about landscapes tonight. So now here's a typical landscape. Got a horizon line, got something in the middle ground here, buildings and so forth, and you got a foreground, okay? Horizon, subject matter, which would be a building and some trees, and then a foreground, and of course a large sky. Now the problem with this particular photograph here is, if you look at it, the horizon line is right in the middle of the page. And that's really, that's not a very good way to start out a drawing or a painting. So I'm going to change that. You don't. I recommend not putting something in a horizon line right in the middle of the painting. It cuts it right in half. So what I'm going to do is move the horizon line, number one. So I'm going to grid this photograph around. I did this before. I printed off a black and white copy, and I drew a grid. Around it. And here's what I did here. By putting the grid a little bit lower, I now have the horizon line in the top third of the drawing. The bottom third is the middle ground is in here on the middle area, and then the foreground is down on the bottom. So that's a grid with the horizon moved down from the photograph. Okay, so that's kind of the format I'm going to be drawing tonight, is a landscape format, but make sure you put the horizon line down below or above the halfway point in the drawing. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. Okay, now also what I do, you can draw the grid right on the photograph and use that as a reference, a 3x3 area. And what that does, it gives you proportions of sizes and so forth to transfer to your drawing, painting or your drawing exercise. So I'm going to put that aside. But I have on my website, I have what I call, I developed this a long time ago. Some of my other classes, I have a 3x3 grid, which I have here designed especially for an 8x10 photograph. And that's what this is. This is an 8x10 photograph printed on a printer. And what I do is I can take 8x10 grid and put it right over top of that, and I've got a reference line already. And I can move that line, which is what I do, move the line down so I have the horizon line just like I showed you on that printout before. And I can move that horizon line so I have it, the horizon line at the top part of the top part of the drawing, and everything else comes down below that. So that's how I design my horizon line, by that way. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to use this as an example. I'll put that aside for a moment. Now, how do I prepare my drawing paper? Well, this particular grid here is actually 9 inches long, which is easy to break up into thirds. Get my ruler around here. If I have a 9-inch grid this way, then each square is 3 inches. 3, 6, 9. So it's 9 inches across the bottom, And on the side, it's split up into, it's 6 inches along here. So these are 2, 4, 6. So that's easy to break this section down. So now I can break this grid up into a 9 by 6 square into 9 squares. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to transfer my drawing over to a piece of paper using this grid. I'll put this aside. So what I got to do now on my sketch pad or on my sketch paper, I'm going to draw in that grid. And here's how I do it. Take the ruler and I go down here. Now I'm going to want a 1-inch border over here. So because I got to get 9 inches across the pad. This is 11 by 8.5. So I'll take an inch off the side. This is 10, 9. So I can mark the 1-inch border, and over here I can mark this side, and that's a 1-inch border. Then I go up here to the top and do the same thing. Up here and mark that. Okay, so that gives me a border on the sides. Now I can do the same thing with the height of the sides. I'll go to the grid here, and I'm actually making this a little bit larger now. I'm going to 6.5 for the side. So I'm going to use a 2 3/16 as my division point, and that goes to 6 3/8 here, and that takes me out to 6 5/8 there. Okay. Then I go to the other side and do the same thing. Start out with the top, and then I measure that off to 2 and 1, 2 and this will be 4. Okay. So my divisions are 3, 6, and 9. Up here is going to be 2. Actually, I made 2 3/8, 6 and 3/16, and it was 6 1/4, and up to 6 3/8 up here. So that divides my drawing material. Now I'm going to take the now I'm going to mark my border a little bit stronger. What I do there is how I do that is I take a pencil, and I put the pencil point on the edge, which is that 1-inch border, and I put my other finger, I'm using this finger here, on my edge of my clipboard, and I just follow that on down. That gives me a straight line. Okay, and I can do the same thing here. I find the edge over here, this point where I have it or marked. Then I just draw that line down. Oop. My hand slipped on that one. Okay. Then I'll get this one over here, turn it around, find the edge. And I just draw my finger down on the edge of the clipboard. The only thing you have to be concerned there is to make sure your paper is parallel to the edge of the clipboard, so you don't get so you get a straight line or a parallel line with the edge. Now turn this around and get the other edge going. So I'm using a clipboard to keep the paper steady, keep the paper stable, and then I just go along the edge. I put my pencil along the edge of the mark, and I just draw it down the edge of the paper. Gives me a straight line. Then I can erase these two little errors here, just got scattered. All right. Okay. Now I've got the outside lines done. Now I'm going to go ahead and cross the board. I get the marks that I did here. Now I'm going to draw these very lightly, the crosshairs. I got the vertical there. I can make it a little darker than that. You won't be able to see it. Just press lightly on there and get a nice line. Get a light line on that one. And then this one here, another light line. And then the other cross section from here, we got them marked. So once you measure off the dimensions, then you make your own grid right on a piece of paper. And okay. All right, so that's a little bit of preparation you have to do for your drawing. You have to get your sketch paper lined up with get the grid down on light pencil, and then when you're done with the drawing, then you erase the lines. And that way you got a nice drawing on your grid. But that's the best way to transfer. This is called the grid transfer method. You have a grid, and you can transfer the data from your photograph to the actual drawing surface. So let's say I'm going to line this up now. I'm going to put the horizon up here at the top, like I showed you. Now I'm going to put this up here as a reference so you can see that. I'm going to put it up here so you can see it. I'm going to put that top line. So I come a little bit on the edge. I brought it in a little bit this way, and now I've got the horizon right across here. Okay. So now I'm going to start penning in the sketch. So I'm going to sketch this landscape with I'm going to use a ink pen with the permanent ink in it. So let me get started here. I'm going to start here at the top. I got this first line, and I look at the reference line, and it's going to start over here. This is where the first building is. I don't have to measure it. I'm just going to eyeball it in. Okay, and that's got a couple little windows in there. Just make a couple lines, and the horizon line it goes right across that. I've already got it right on that line. So now I'm just going to make a few curves. Now there's a little bush line here, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. It goes above the horizon line a little bit. And then the horizon line continues on right across that same line that I put in there with the top third. Now I get to this point here, and I put in this first building now. The first building comes where the grid line crosses over. And I might have to show it up close. Let me get this first one in. Get the roof line in. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and get this. There's a second building next to it. Right next to this line here. And that part building's a little bit longer. And it's got some windows out, so I'm going to put some little marks here showing windows. And there's a window down here, or a box or something. It looks like I'll make another one here. So while I'm there, I'm going to make some marks. Okay, so what I've done now is I've transferred the horizon lines right here, right where I got the line on. That's the horizon line. I made my grid right along that line, and now I'm putting in the buildings, the two building here and this larger building here. Now I'm going to put in this bush line, a little bit of it. But before I do that, let's see. I'll continue on the horizon line. So right after this building here is a horizon line. It's a little wavy. It's like a far off. I think that's a mountain in the background. I think it's just a low. And there's a little break there. I'll leave that alone. Now I come across here because I'm going to put that bush in. And the horizon line goes straight across. Okay, so I got the horizon and those two. Now the next line I'm going to make is I'm going to there's a marker line. There's a bush along line. This bush goes over here, and there's a line that goes right along here, and it intersects about right this line right here. If I follow my finger, right there's a little bit of a line across there, and it's just grass, some flowers, and so forth. It goes down below the building here, then it comes on down across here. Okay, then there's this big bush here, and the intersection is with this square over here. This square right here. So I start over here, and it comes up. And there's also another reference line I want to put in. There's a there's part of the landscape that goes down. This is up on, like, the house is up on a hill, so I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to bring this down here. And then it stops over here. Okay, so let me go back to the bush again. It crosses over. Then it comes up, goes above the horizon line. And then it crosses over this. There's a very important cross mark here. It crosses over this one box. And it comes down along the other side. And then that continues on over here. Then there's a little tree here right next to the border. Now I've got my edge over here, so I'm going to start right here. I'm going to put this tree in here. And this tree goes up here. It's got some edges on it. This line here, I also got to remember, this line comes across here. This goes up, comes down, and leans out to the left. This tree goes over. This tree limb goes over the horizon. This comes down. The rest of that tree. And this part over here is a limb that hangs out here, almost to the edge of the drawing over here, a border. Okay, and then this continues on down. This line right here. Okay, there's another line I want to pick up. This looks like a pathway or a road or something. So I can get that over here. I'll estimate it's here. And it comes down just before this cross section right here. There's a cross section here. It's above that. Let's see. And then there's this. I'm marking this part here. This is above this one. So this little triangle here, a little triangle path or part of a road or something. And then there's this bush line here, which is right at the corner of this house. So it comes up here. So it's got a zigzaggy motion along this way, and it kind of falls down toward this line here. I'm going to bring this in. Okay. All right, so let me take a look at the drawing now. That's the drawing. Now, a couple areas that I overdid, but at least what the drawing does, of course I'm doing in ink, so I can't erase anything, but that's okay. It's just I'm doing in ink so you can see what I drew. But essentially what I did, I established the parameters of the size by moving the grid down to have the horizon line in the upper third of the drawing. So I only have the sky here instead of way up in the halfway up. So I brought the horizon line up in the drawing, but everything else fell in below that. So what I can do here is once I get the horizon line identified, it's a pretty straight line across there. Then I locate the house here on the left. There's a bush line right here. We got that in. And then this house here is a double, there's a part of it's facing this way, and of course the other side the other way. And there's a little piece that goes down from the horizon line. It's just a line right here, behind this little tree here. So it's like this is like a hill mass that's going down this way, and behind that's more. This is more stuff behind that. I don't know what that is, but not important. And then this line here is a bush line. I went down below this area. This is a row. It's like a little hill, and there's a bush here, which I drew in. And then that continues on, and we come to this little tree. The little tree goes up. It goes above the horizon line. So the tree top, the house tops are above the horizon line. There they are. This little bush here goes above the horizon line. There we are. This little tree over here on the right side goes above the horizon line. There we are. So those are the key points to get them located on your drawing. And then the foreground is not that usually not that important, except you need to maybe have something in here. For example, this little roadway, which goes behind this bush line. There's like a little pathway going over here, and there's a little row of small bushes or tree, or it could be a flower garden a little bit here, and it goes on out. There's a little pathway. I can see parts of it here through the paint drawing. There's a little pathway behind this little row here. Now, what we can do now, once you get the drawing down, now the details are just what you want to put in there. This could be if you wanted to make this a bunch of flowers up here. I see some yellow, so there could be some little yellow poppies or little yellow flowers up here in this section. You can put a little more bushes and so forth, and a little more tufts of grass in there. This could be a pathway right here. This could be another row of flowers. You could put some blue ones and yellow ones or orange. There's little flowers here in the bottom. So you could dress this up with anything you wanted. Now back here, not very important, I see another building way down there in a valley somewhere. So it's a hill mass that's going way in the background. I would ignore that sort of thing in the drawing. That's not that important. The most important parts of the drawing is the horizon line, this row of buildings up here in the middle ground, and as we come forward, this bush line, this tree, and the foreground area right in here. Those are the three main areas. This horizon, the middle ground, and then the foreground here is the most important parts of the drawing. So let me review exactly what I did now a little bit. When you start out with a landscape, picture. You take a picture of something you like, let's say a forescape, mountains or whatever they are. You want to make sure you locate the horizon in a convenient way. And my suggestion is you don't have the horizon halfway down and then halfway here. You move the horizon line should be in the upper part or the lower. If you want more sky, you bring the horizon line down. If you want less sky, then you move the horizon line up. And by doing that, the grid that you draw on the which I did here as I started out, you move the grid down, move the grid line down, your horizon falls into the upper third of the grid, and then everything else, the middle ground falls in here in the middle grid, and then the foreground moves in the bottom. Okay. So that's the way and then you break up this section here. You break up this section in thirds, then you break up this way in thirds, and by measuring with a ruler and get those grids started. And you decide how big you want your grid. I decided I wanted mine 9 by 6 and actually it's 6 5/8 is what it is. 6 5/8. So 6 5/8 this way and 9 inches this way. That's the size of this grid here. And you can see here it fits right on the drawing. The grid I call it in my website on the supply page. I call it a 3x3 grid, and it fits right on there. On an 8x10 photograph, it fits there, and it will fit on once you draw it out on a piece of paper, it fits right on there. And what you're doing is you're transferring that information. You line the grid up where you want to put the horizon line, or the important parts of the painting or drawing. You line it up with the horizon line, and then you fill in once you prepared your drawing, your sketch paper, in the same grid. Now this grid size here is different because I drew it in differently. But this is the one I drew right from this my 3x3 grid that I have on my website. So that's the convenience of having a grid, or you can make one of your own right on the photograph. I've done that several times. Just make a copy of your photograph and draw a grid on it, just like this. I did it in black and white so you could see the marks. And then you make an equal, not equal size, but equal proportion grid on your drawing paper, 3x3. You divide this by this by 3 this way, and divide this by 3 this way. And that way your proportions will wind up exactly as you see. So you start with something like this. That mark is going to hit right there. The bush is going to hit right there. This little tree is going to hit right there. it all works out the same way. It doesn't matter how big you make your squares, as long as it's all proportional. Okay, that concludes my little drawing exercise tonight. It's called drawing a landscape, and you need to use a grid. My method here is, you could do a sketch just by looking at the photograph. That would give you a sort of an approximate idea of your sketch. If you give an approximate idea of your location, and that's not bad at all. You can sketch. This is a pretty simple landscape. You can probably do that just almost without using a grid. But I wanted to use something simple tonight to show you how a grid can be used. Now, if you did a still life with flowers or with fruit, a bowl of fruit or whatever, glassware, you can use the same idea. You could take a photograph and then mark a grid on it, and then have a grid on your drawing paper or your painting paper, and then transfer that grid to your drawing or painting paper, and that way you'll get a nice proportion of the actual item you're looking at. Now you can move things around, of course. It depends on what you want to do, or add things to your drawing. You can add things into your drawing once you get the thing set up. Okay, that concludes my little presentation tonight. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go back to my main camera. Hi. Well, it's one of those things in composition. I covered composition tonight, which is a rule of 1/3. The rule of thirds is very important, I think, to divide your working space down into asymmetrical arrangement of shapes. You don't want to have things lined up in parallel. You don't want to have things too far out of kilter with the actual location on your paper. You can put too many things up top, makes the top heavy. Too much stuff at the bottom makes the bottom heavy, and vice versa on left and right. So if you go by rule of thirds, you're going to come out in pretty good shape with locating or isolating your subjects on your drawing surface or on your painting surface. Okay, that's my story tonight on how to draw a landscape or a still life. It's all done the same way with a grid and a pencil and some paper. I happen to use my new fountain pen here just to show you a little bit about darkening it up, and then you can see what I was drawing. Okay, so fountain pens are also a lot of fun with permanent colors in, permanent ink in. All right, so I'll see you next week at 7:30 p.m. on Simply Drawing with Everett, and we'll have something else to draw, I guarantee. So I hope you'll come back and join me. I'll also be live at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll do Everetts Watercolors with a watercolor demonstration. Okay? Yeah, both are Eastern Standard Time. 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Simply Drawing with Everett.
Thursdays.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, every Thursday. And yeah, tonight I looked up my okay, this is episode 31, but I have many other videos on my YouTube page. This will be on YouTube, but you can also I got over 500 videos on my YouTube channel. So you go to YouTube and then just type in Everetts Watercolors, and I'm there. You'll find me, and then you can find out a whole bunch of paintings, and I've done some drawing exercises and done quite a variety of things. So you might find those interesting also. So give me a thumbs up, and give me a like, and give me some questions and comments on the video tonight. So we'll see you next week. In the meantime, you stay safe, and I'll see you on my next video.